this is a proper spot for incest.
And that's how we're going to open the episode.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Jupiter's CROCK here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. Hit that like and subscribe if you want to listen to us every other week talk about ancient Rome. Now, quick question. Did you guys hear about that? I don't know if you'd call it a meme, but it went around a while back where it's like every day or something, a man thinks about ancient Rome in some way, shape, or form. Did you guys ever see anything about that?
No.
Nope.
Okay. It was like a big thing on the internet for a while. I remember I saw a video where they went up and they asked Denzel Washington about it. And he's like, I don't think about ancient Rome at all. But it was this huge thing. So clearly we have disproven that internet meme. I'm Matthew. I don't know why I opened this show this way. Joined by Steve.
I'm having some doubts right now.
Yeah, I believe I opened it better.
And Ronan. And we're going to talk about episode 9 of Rome, Utica. We're in the back third. We're almost done with season 1. We are getting there. How you guys feeling about the show so far, up to episode 9? Ronan, you love it, correct?
I mean, it's fine.
And Steve, you love it, correct?
I mostly love it. I've watched ahead a few episodes, and there's definitely some things that I would have done differently if I was making this show. So I'm still much more into it than Ronan is. But there are some things where I'm like, really? Was that the best way you could have handled that?
Okay, so teasing up future episodes, people.
I don't hate this show so far, but at the same time, like, I will go back and I will, like, I rewatched Spartacus even before we did our review of it, but I will never go back and rewatch the show once we're done with it. There's just nothing here there's no rewatchability in the show for me. I will never go back and rewatch it once we're done. But I don't regret the time watching it. Titus Polo has been a highlight in my life, even though apparently he seems to be going into a heel turn.
Let's wait. We'll get there. Oh, I'm going to turn it over to Ploticus to take us through a very uncomfortable episode.
Yeah. So stop me if you heard this one, guys. There's a battle that we didn't see.
Stop.
I think he's describing the battle of like 20 Romans versus about 30 Egyptians. I think that's what he's trying to describe to his kids.
What? I have no idea what Ronan's talking about.
No, because the episode opens up and Verinus is he's got his kids there and there are all these blocks and he's trying to describe 900 elephants and me and our legion of
That is not how this episode opens at all.
You watched the right one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay,
Cato.
so
tell us about Cato, Steve.
The way the episode actually opens is Cato and Scipio, the last two Roman senators that are actually fighting against Caesar. They have lost the battle that we didn't see, and so they're broken. I got pocket aces and they got no help here, and I'm very pissed off about it. So they lost their battle. They're trying to think of their next steps, and one of them says, "Oh, let's go to Utica." And so they go to Utica, and they're hanging out. And Cato's like, "You know what? I think I'm over this
bread. This bread is stale. Give me a knife."
This bread is being stubborn, I think, is what he says.
Yeah, that's a good line.
But he takes his bread knife and he goes into the bathroom and he kills himself. And so Scipio goes in and he's upset that his last remaining Roman senator friend is dead. So he arranges a funeral pyre for Cato, and then he has one of his own army men slit his throat. So the resistance to Caesar is completely gone at this point.
I watched the All Roads to Rome pop-up thing as this was going on to get the backstory of all of this stuff, and Cato was apparently beloved by the Roman people because he was the standard for standing up for the ideal Roman Republic, and the fact that he killed himself was used as propaganda to basically make him this almost godlike figure of great Roman respect.
Well, who knows if the show is entirely accurate, but if it is, he's also the reason that Caesar is in power, because he is the one who told Pompey, no, don't let Caesar just slowly starve to death. Let's go pick a fight with him.
Yeah. Let's go stick our dick in his ear, you guys. Let's do this. Sounds like a great idea. Let's do it.
Anyways, Cato and Scipio are dead. We cut back to Rome, and everyone is arriving back at Rome. There's like a play going on, mocking the deaths of Scipio and Cato, and Caesar's back in Rome. I'm trying to play
crazy
poker
time
while
jumps,
also talking
by the
about
way.
this. There's a 2-year time jump, so everyone's like, "Oh, good, Caesar is finally back from the war," and then we see Octavian, because remember, one of the previous episodes, he was just like, "Oh, we're gonna send Octavian off to school. Like, you gotta leave the country because it's not safe." And then we see him back here, and Octavian shows up, and it's like, and Timon's like, "Oh, it's been 2 years since you were last here, right?" So now we know 2 years have passed. So Octavian is back. Varenus comes back. So, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, doesn't he make some, the guy who's taking him into the city? Doesn't he make some quip about have you been continuing to enter my mother? And he's like, "If she'll have me, ha ha," or something like that. What
Yeah.
there?
Yes,
Yeah, Octavian says, "Are you still fucking my mom?" And Timon's like, "Yeah, when she'll have me." And Octavian's like, "Well, that would explain why you're being so." He says, "Why are you being so familiar?" Octavian expects his servants to treat him like the master, and Timon's treating him like one of the boys, and Octavian is not enjoying it, but he eventually relents. He's like, "Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is what it is." That's the scene that Ronan's talking about. Varenus comes back, and he meets Niobe, and you find out that Niobe and her sister open a butcher's market, which Varenus eventually begins working at it. Him and Pullo, and they're very upset. I guess I'll talk about the characters just on their own again, because there's so much fucking going on that I don't think I can keep track of the actual order of events in the show. But Varenus comes back. He and Polo go to work at Niobe's butcher shop.
Well, Varenus is a lazy stay-at-home dad for a while. She wants him to get out and start working.
Yeah, there is so Ronan thought the episode opened 20 minutes into the episode where Varenus is playing with blocks and telling his kids, this is how the battle went. But yeah, so Varenus has just been sitting at home. And Niobe's like, "Look, you gotta find something to do. Come work for me at the butcher shop." So both Varenus and Pullo, you think Varenus is just sitting around. Pullo is just sitting around to an extreme degree. He doesn't seem to do anything other than just hang out at Varenus's house. And I have no idea what is Niobe cool with this? Does Pullo sleep in a guest room? I have no clue.
Yeah, that's true. They don't really explain if Pullo is living there or not. I assume he's kind of just, the bro that hangs out all the time.
He must be.
Yeah.
But they both get jobs at the butcher shop. There's they see a guy who apparently owes someone money. And so there's just some thugs about to cut a dude's nose off if he doesn't get the money. And Varenus steps up. He's like, "Leave him alone. Get the fuck out of here." And he just bitch slaps one of the guys and sends him on its way. And now Niobe is scared, and Niobe reveals that was Erastus Fullman, the guy that tried to turn Varenus into an armed debt collector a few episodes ago.
I thought that's who it was supposed to be, but I just couldn't remember.
I remember everything. So Erastus Fullman has now become this super powerful crime boss in town, and Niobe's like, "Look, he's gonna fucking kill us now. You should not have done that. You should have just let him cut dude's nose off and stay out of his business." And Varenus is like, "Absolutely, fuck, I will not. I'm not gonna allow this to happen." Erastus Fullman shows up and tells Varenus, "Look, this is the second time that you have disrespected me," because he's counting back to episodes ago when Varenus.
At this point, what was it, 4 years ago?
4 years ago.
Years ago. He holds a grudge.
Yeah, so he's like, "This is the second time." This is the second time Varinus has disrespected me. So here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, I'm going to be in the forum, and you're going to come to the forum. You're going to publicly apologize. You're going to kiss my feet. Alternatively, I will kill you and assault all of the women in your life. Erastus Fullman, just a man of the people here, clearly. And so Pullo grabs the knife, and Pullo is about to kill Erastus Fullman. And since I've watched ahead, I know that that's the smartest thing he could have done there, and it does not work out well that Varinus stops him. Varinus
I love Varinus in this scene, though, because he gives no fucks. But this guy's getting in his face, and he's just looking at him like, no. He's not even acting like he's scared of this guy at all.
And he's not. Like, he is not bothered. Like, Varinus is treating Erastus Fullman, like a fly buzzing around his head. He is not fussed whatsoever about the fact that this crime boss is threatening to kill him and horribly violate his family. Does not care. He's like, yeah, whatever, get the fuck out. And so he sends Fullman away. A couple days later, or it must be the next day, Erastus Fullman is waiting at the forum, and Varinus doesn't show up. Varinus, meanwhile, has sent his family minus Niobe away because she won't leave. And he and Pullo are just waiting for a fight. They're just sitting at home, just sharpening their blades, just waiting for Erastus Fullman to show up. And Varinus is completely okay with the idea of just fucking killing this guy. And who wouldn't be, because this guy sucks. But he's waiting for Fullman to show up. But he doesn't get Erastus Fullman. Caesar shows up.
He gets a surprise.
Caesar shows up. And
like dropping his weapons as soon as he thinks like Erastus is going to show up, and they like throw their weapons down as soon as Caesar walks in. Like, oh shit.
Yep.
Well, Erastus also, because there was a scene where Erastus is like waiting, and he's coming up, but he sees all these Roman soldiers and looks at them, and instantly turns around, and people in the crowd see this and start laughing at him. I think somebody calls him like a cock or something like that.
Which I assume was just like incredibly damning back in ancient Rome. Anyways, Caesar shows up, and Caesar and Varinus have a chat, and Caesar's like, I want you to become the magistrate of this part of Rome that you live in. And they have this back and forth, and Varinus is like, I can't do it. And they have a talk about whether or not Caesar is a tyrant or a dictator. And Varinus, he pledged himself to Caesar's military, and so he faithfully served in the military. But he can't support Caesar's politics. But Caesar convinces him by telling him that, look, I am a dictator, but I am like the duly elected dictator.
Only for 6 months, Varinus.
Yeah,
everything will be cool after 6 months. Trust me.
He was elected or voted to be dictator, essentially. And he says, a Varinus super pinky swear promise. As soon as I've got Rome back on the path to its glory days, I will give up my power, and everything will go back to how it should be. No dictators, just the Senate and whatnot. And Varinus is like, all right, cool. So Varinus agrees to become the magistrate of whatever part of
Aventine.
The Aventine. So now Varinus has got himself in political office, much to the chagrin of Pullo, because Pullo is like distraught, like he's like losing his friend. I think it's in this episode where he gets Irene to strip while they're hanging out, and it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
this is the part of the story where Pullo is, I assume, is going to start losing some fan support, because I was not thrilled with what's going on here.
Yeah, no, he's beginning his heel turn at this point.
He's just so depressed about everything because he's not in the military anymore. In the next episode, we're going to see like his military buddies basically tell him, fuck off, you're just a civilian now. He's got nothing to do because all he knows how to do is kill people. And he loves this girl that he found, and she's not reciprocating at all. And he's just like, what the fuck do I do with my life? I have nothing in this life for me.
Yeah, things aren't going well for Polo. The people, the fans are turning against Polo here. So that's what's going on with Vernus and Polo. Any other part of their story we need to touch on right now?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So what's going on with the Caesar family? So Caesar has. This is all prior to him going and saying, "Hey, Vernus, I want you to be the magistrate."
Oh, fuck this guy.
Yeah, fuck him. I don't know why we're fucking him, but whatever.
He went all in. Stupid fuck with his stupid beard.
Anyways, Caesar is back. The whole Caesar family is reunited because Octavian is there. You see some creepy. I'm not going all in on this. You see some looks not exchanged, but looks from Octavian directed at Octavia. But Caesar has a party with people there, and he's talking about, well, what can I do to help Rome and win the goodwill of the people? And he pitches the idea to Octavian. And Octavian's like, rebuild the Senate, find everyone jobs. And Caesar says, good idea. I'm appointing you some sort of role,
some sort of entry-level
auguries.
position.
Yeah, like the augurs, the guys that kind of rigged the vote to make it seem like the gods favor what Caesar's doing. Octavian is going to go deal with them now. There's also a maybe. Well, Octavian says, rebuild the Senate with people you can trust, and Brutus is like, what are you talking about? And Octavian says, yeah, it's I like Brutus, I trust that when you just rolled over and showed your belly to Caesar that you were genuine in doing so. So there's a minute where Brutus thinks he's being called out, but if Octavian is to be believed, he was not being called out. So what's going on with the rest of the extended Caesar family? Well, Octavia continues to hang out and bang Servilia. Servilia was also at this party, and it's very clear that she still hates, really hates Caesar, even though 2 years have passed at this point.
Yeah, it's been several years at this point, but I respect it. I respect the hate hustle. I get it.
Yeah, so Octavia just is talking to Servilia and is like, look, you gotta let go of your hate for Caesar. Don't worry, his affliction's gonna kill him soon. And Servilia is like, the affliction? What are you talking about? Oh yeah, the affliction that my brother told me that Caesar had. They're talking about this like it happened yesterday, but it was 3 years ago within the show at this point. It's
a long time.
The time, there's a time abyss going on in this show right now. It's very strange.
It's definitely worse than it was in Spartacus at this point, because it's just there were, for us it's just 3 episodes ago. For them it's 3-5 years, however long, we don't know because the show doesn't tell us.
Yeah, this show really needed date stamps at the beginning of every
Would that have been so hard?
Sometimes
such.
Sometimes at the beginning of scenes within an episode. What the shit is going on in this hand?
I don't know. What are you doing?
I'm talking about Rome. I don't know what you guys are doing.
We're not going all in. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm out, man.
I went all in. I mean, I don't
better have the 7-2. No.
I got 9s. I got pocket 9s. I don't like any of that. Oh, come on. All right. Shit. How do I talk about this?
Well, that is,
all right, just go ahead, Matt.
While you're paying attention to this real quick, I just want to say, there's 7-2. Wow. I agree that this is such a weird show, and that even when Spartacus, when there was a time jump, it never seemed to happen within the episode. In this show, you'll be 2 years later, and by the end of the episode, there's also another 10-month time jump, all within the span of 50 minutes, and it's very discombobulating. It's very hard to keep track of what's going on.
Yeah, I 100% agree that the show. I'm still enjoying the show, but it's starting to lose me, and I'm hoping it comes back. But anyways, Servilia is
I'm winning you over. You're starting to come over to my side. You're almost there, Steve. You're almost there.
Servilia says to Octavia, well, you got to figure out what the affliction is. I must know. You got to go fuck your brother. And Octavia's like,
That's literally about how well she like a man will tell his lover anything. So, like she phrases it a little bit more delicately, but yeah, that's basically what she's saying. Like, yeah, go fuck your brother and find out.
Yeah, and so Octavia tries to. I guess it doesn't happen just quite that. Yeah, she doesn't. It doesn't happen quite that fast. She's like, at first, Aurelia says, "You just go talk to your brother and try to get the secret." And so she just goes, and she is such like. I mean, I guess the acting is good because she's supposed to be awkward here, and she does come across as incredibly awkward. She's like, "Oh, hey, brother, how's it going? I'm bored. Tell me a secret." And the secret that Octavian eventually reveals is that he and Polo like tortured a man to death, like this is 17 years ago now, or however the fuck long ago it was. And so Octavia goes back to Servilia and is like, "Yeah, that's all he would tell me." And at that point, Servilia says, "Okay, go fuck your brother." And so I believe at this point,
huge no in ancient Rome, like you could be committed to death for incest.
I believe at this point, Servilia tells Octavia that your mom killed your husband, which was 91 years ago, or however long that happened. And so this is a question that I had like many episodes ago. Like Octavia's husband dies, or gets murdered, and then his body gets wheeled up to the front of Addia's house. And I'd always thought, like, clearly that wasn't part of Addia's plan. Who did that? It seems to me like Servilia may have had a hand in that. Like, I just still don't know.
I don't think that they were in their rageful hate mode at that point. Were they?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think Attia did it because I think she wanted Octavia to know that he was dead.
Okay,
rather
well then
than he's just disappeared and he might come back someday, like he's dead.
Maybe her acting then was so good that I genuinely thought that she was not planning on that. I don't know. Anyways, Servilia says, "Hey, your mom killed your husband," and at that point, Octavia says, "You know what? I will go fuck my brother." And so she goes back home. She seduces her brother very awkwardly, and she's like, "Oh, you're a man now. You can take whatever you want.
You can take what you want."
Incredibly awkward. So they fuck, and then she's like, "Hey, about Caesar's affliction," and Octavian's like, here we go. Like, I knew that wasn't just...
No, I think, no, when they were done, he just straight up asked, "So, you want me to tell you some kind of..." Yeah, because he sees right through it.
That's the disturbing thing about it, because he knew exactly what she was doing to try to...
And he still went for it.
He's like,
here
the comes the price.
Yeah. Oh, you want to know about Caesar's affliction, huh? All right, well, okay, I'll tell you.
Does he actually tell her? I don't remember.
I don't think he does.
I don't think he actually does it. Well, not like a specific, hey, he's cursed by Apollo or whatever.
Yeah, once she gets called out on this, she immediately starts breaking down.
Because the slave sees them.
Yeah.
The slave is the one that sees them.
She starts breaking down, crying, and Octavian's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's fine. Like, I've probably not seated you because the moon is in, I don't know, waning
the positions of the moon
right now." But anyway, Octavian's taking all this in stride, and it cuts to the next morning, and Addia is chasing Octavia around with a fucking whip. She is just about to beat the shit out of Octavia, and Octavian is falling behind, like, "Mom, fucking stop!" And Addia goes,
"Calm down. It was just a little incest. Calm down.
Just a little incest between siblings. It's fine." So Addia was about to slap Octavian, and Octavian grabs her hand and is like, "I am your son, but I am your child. I am your son, but that does not mean you will not strike me." And I'm thinking, oh shit, is this going to be like the beginning of Octavian fucking standing up? No, she just pulls her hand away and then slaps him anyway. And Octavian
she hits him with the other hand.
Yeah, Octavian falls on the ground and is like cradling his face from the force of his mom's slap. So I thought
she calls him a little pervert. "You fucked your sister, you little pervert."
Yeah, I thought Octavian was about to I don't know if man up is the right term, but I thought he was about to very forcefully stand up to his mom, and then his mom just immediately put him in his place. But then,
yeah, I was thinking that this was going to be the moment she finally starts to like get undermined and like lose it, because she's the treacherous snake of the show, but she's not nearly as enjoyable watching her do it as all the treacherous snakes in Spartacus. So I'm just like, okay, I mean, at some point she's going to get killed, right? And it doesn't seem like that's happening yet. But yeah, it's like no, she firmly establishes like no, I am still in charge here. And this is also the one time where she's like being mean and cruel, where I'm like, it's kind of warranted. They did just fuck.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, they should be sentenced to death. That's the thing. That's why Addie is so angry, because incest was like the hugest taboo in ancient Rome. You could fuck anybody you wanted except your own family. So,
which I mean, yeah, I'm glad that taboo still holds true. It's one of the only ones the Romans got right.
Well, just think of like from Attia's perspective, what's going to happen when Caesar finds out, or if Caesar finds out, the shame that it would bring to their entire family.
But it must be just when pregnancy is involved, because Attia thought Caesar was fucking Octavian, and she was all about that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Well, but because Octavian's even like after it happens, he's trying to be like, well, no, our social status position, it's gonna be okay. It's not gonna like he seems more like okay with this because like, oh well, we're upper elites. Rules don't matter to us, which is still true to this day. But like
also, I don't think Caesar like gosh, I'm trying to remember the exact sort of family things, but Octavian, I don't believe, is a blood relative to Caesar. So, like, because Caesar like adopts him as his son, but I don't think somewhere along the line that they're blood related. But I'd have to check that out.
So, like, Caesar is an uncle, but like by marriage or something? Because like,
I don't.
Think
yeah,
so. It's very complicated, that whole.
Wasn't that in like one of the first episodes where that happens, where he's like, "Oh yes, I've decided to formally adopt you into the." I think that happens in one of the early episodes.
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Incest is incest.
Incest.
Yeah, it's still bad.
So Octavia is like distraught, and his mom is chasing her with a whip, and Octavia like breaks down because like once again, like Octavia is like the most easily manipulated person in this show, because she's like, I did this because Servilia told me that you killed my husband, and Addie is like, I didn't kill your husband, and Octavia's like, all right, cool, I believe you again.
Promise.
I believe you again. And so they're just gonna solve this family problem, never talk about the incest again. But now Adia knows for sure that Servilia is the one that is trying to ruin her family. And so the end of the episode is Servilia is just kind of like, I don't know, getting pulled along in her carriage, and Timon has his men attack the carriage, rip Servilia out, like cut all of her hair off, strip her down, and just leave her like crying and naked in the street. That
Noble
is how
woman of Rome.
Yeah, and no one comes to help.
No one comes to help at any point. This is something that I wanted to ask Max. I am not a history buff at all. Like, did Rome have any sort of equivalent of like a police force? Because there are multiple times where people just get killed in the street and just nothing happens. Like people just go about their day.
Not really.
Honestly,
I think it was like
I
you
think
just kind of like protect yourself, essentially.
Yeah, the idea of a police force is honestly pretty fucking recent in history, like literally only within like the last 200-ish years, I think. Like America, we had sheriffs, like you watch those old westerns where there was like a town sheriff, and that's true, but actually city police forces, that didn't happen here until like after the Civil War, because like the origins of the police is they were basically set up to like, keep freed slaves in line. That's their origin story. The idea of like police is a pretty fucking new concept, all things considered.
Rome didn't have like an actual police force. I think there were like groups of people, like a neighborhood watch type kind of shit, where they would try to, just of normal Roman citizens. But there was no, because even military, you couldn't be in the city with weapons. Like the military guys couldn't even technically be in there with their swords and stuff like that. So yeah, it was everybody fends for themselves sort of thing. That's why when Erasmus or whatever is talking about I've been disrespected so much, that was a big thing in ancient Rome. It's like, hey, I might not like this person, but I got to at least honor the rules of respect towards this person. And if I don't, that's when, they're like, or even at the market when Venus and Polo doesn't even do anything. And the dudes are like, you're both fucking dead. Like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill all of you because you disrespected me and you didn't let me do what I needed to do. That was kind of like the system. One thing I will say about this episode that we didn't really touch on, that I think we should because it's going to become very, very, very important, is what's going on with Brutus. So Brutus, there's a moment in the show where, who is it? It's Pompey's kid, right? His biological kid.
Quintus, yeah. I forgot all about Quintus.
Yeah, he's staying in Servilia's house, essentially Brutus's house, and Brutus goes up to Servilia. He's like, what the fuck is this guy staying? He's stayed here for like 18 years, right? I mean, he's been here forever. Why is he sticking around here? In Servilia, there's this like tension between Servilia and Brutus because she's kind of looking at him like, you fucked up, dude. She's looking at him as weak, cowardly, just kind of kissing the ring of Caesar. There's a sequence, I think it's this episode, is it where Brutus is talking to Cicero, or is that the next episode?
I think that's the next episode.
Okay. But regardless, Brutus is starting to kind of be pushed from all sides here, his own family, because Brutus is like descended from his family's line goes back to the original founders of Rome. And so all of this, and since he's like best friends with Caesar, all of this pressure is going to be applied to him over the next few episodes to like, hey, you, Brutus, have to save the Roman Republic. You're the only one that can do it, and you're going to have to honor your family. And he's struggling with that this episode.
I will say I hate Servilia because she is the one pushing Brutus to be like, yeah, you got, we're from this, ancient bloodline. It's our job to kill tyrants, and Caesar is a tyrant, and you got to do it. Servilia was completely fine with supporting Caesar being a tyrant as long as Caesar was still throwing some dick her way. And when that went away, now she suddenly has a problem with tyrants.
Yep.
The hell have no fury, Steve. There is that saying exists.
When the lady wants the dick, Steve, you gotta give it to her. Otherwise, bad things are gonna happen.
Words to live by. Also, Caesar is planning a triumph, which we'll get to in the next episode. But
yes.
See, I feel like Caesar doesn't do a whole lot in this episode outside of promoting Venus to magistrate, whatever.
Does anyone I don't know if it pops up like, is anyone aware at this point of what Caesar was up to in Egypt? In other words, that he fucked Cleopatra. Is anyone aware of that?
Egypt is not, I mean, clearly his soldiers know, but Egypt is not mentioned whatsoever in this episode that I recall.
Let me ask you guys something. So there's a lot of talk about tyrants and everything in here, and Caesar's be like, look, man, I'm not a tyrant. I'm pardoning people. I'm not. The war's over, and like all of this stuff. Do you feel like they have set up Caesar to actually be a tyrant yet at this point, or do you feel like Kieran Hines, the guy who plays Caesar, is basically just playing him like, look, I'm kind of like a benevolent tyrant in a sense. Like, I'm not going to cause damage. I'm only going to do good things. I'm going to create public works so people have jobs. I'm going to stop the wars. I'm going to do all of this while still maintaining all the power, right? Manipulating my way to getting all the power, but he's not doing it like in a necessarily overly negative way. Like, he's not destroying people's rights and doing all of this. How do you feel they've set up Caesar so far?
I'll say like kind of like fake benevolence. Like, Caesar is willing to do this as bloodlessly as possible, but if you get in his way, he's gonna fucking kill you. I think that's probably the best way I could put it, because he did, like, genuinely just allow Brutus and Cicero to come right back into the fold, but every time he interacts with them, there's like that little element of, I'm saying this to you in a friendly way, but you don't actually have a choice in the matter about whether or not you will carry out what I've told you.
Yeah, well, every villain believes they're the hero of their own story. Like, I know that's very cliche, but it's also true. Like, all of history's greatest monsters, like, for sure thought that they were in the right with what they were doing. Caesar, like, he's even said it so much, like, like, his plan is to, like, do as Steve was touching on, do as bloodless a coup as possible. He likes most of these senators because he's been pals with them for, like, in this show's timeline, like 200 plus years, because I don't know how the flow of time works in this show. So he's been friends with them for a long time. He's just trying to, like, he's trying to be the alpha bro, and it's like, no, bro, I run this pack. And
so yeah, he's basically a tyrant who's accumulating power through smiles and niceties, rather than I'm just going to straight up murder you and take what I want.
He's not above that. He'll do it if he needs to, but like, right. Even he knows that, like, just openly killing, open wanton killing, that doesn't look good. It doesn't look good to the people of Rome. So, like, if I have to do it, I'll do it, but do it as quietly and under the table as possible, and win everyone's hearts and minds with money or the promises of money down the road. And, like, it's just not going to happen.
Well, the reason I ask is because I think it's interesting how the show is kind of presenting Caesar. Caesar is not like, when we think of ancient Rome and, like, the emperors like Caligula and all of those people who were just awful, Nero, and like these crazy emperors who did these horrible things to the people. That is not how Caesar is thought of. Caesar is thought of, he was he wasn't the first emperor. Obviously, Octavian is going to become the first emperor. But for all intents and purposes, Julius Caesar was the first emperor in terms of, like, power that they had, and set the stage for Octavian to take over, the entire empire. But it's different if you're presenting that as, this is clearly a bad guy. And then when Caesar gets his comeuppance and the Senate, like, stabs him to death, they assassinate him, is the audience supposed to feel, the way the show is portraying it, like, hell yeah, Caesar deserved that, that's bad? Or are they portraying him in, like, such a good way, like, he's a nice guy, he only does stuff if he absolutely has to, he gives everybody the option to, because I think in the next episode he mentions in the Senate or whatever, he's like, hey, there won't be a second time. Like, I'm giving you guys, like, a pardon now, but there ain't going to be a second time. So you get that kind of moment where he's a little, like, don't fuck with me now that I got all the power. But if he's portrayed as this horrible evil guy and he's stabbed, that makes the audience have one reaction. If he's presented as kind of like a benevolent good guy who just has to crack some eggs when he has to, when his push comes to shove, but he's ultimately kind of a good guy and he's doing things for the good of the state, how does that make the audience feel when he's assassinated? Whose side are you on, essentially, at this point? When Caesar is killed, are you on the side of the senators, who are also assholes and bad dudes, or are you kind of on the side of Caesar, who's been presented as a good guy? Just something to think about, I guess, as we go through the next few episodes. So, Steve, what did you think of this episode?
It's fine. Like, this one didn't do a whole lot for me. Like, the time abyss is becoming a big problem at this point in the episode. I feel like this episode was more of, like, a setup for future events rather than the episode itself accomplishing anything.
100%. That's what I thought. This is just setting the stage. Spartacus had some episodes like this where you're like, okay, not a whole lot happens. It's just kind of setting up what's going to happen in the last arc here. Ronan, your thoughts?
Yes, there's so far that I think there's only been like one episode where I've truly been like, this sucked, and that was like, I think one of the ones we did last time where I was just like, I watched half of it, fell asleep, and just no, I'm not. I decided just not to try and recoup that lost time. This one's not as bad, but this one also, yeah, it is setting up the only real shining light that keeps me going through this show is the bromance between like Titus Polo and Varenus, and now we're getting now they're setting up a heel turn, and it's like, oh great, are they going to well and truly lose me in the last like 3 episodes of this show? Is that what's going to happen? Are they're going to lose me? And I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to lose me. So this is a very episode. I know enough history about Rome to know, like, okay, well, like it's E2 Brute. That's pretty common knowledge, I think, for most people. We kind of know what's going to happen. So, like, that it's up and coming down the pike, and this is trying to set that up. But at the same time, that's like the only characters I've really gotten behind are pretty. It seems like they're about to have their big breakup. So like we'll see. Is like, is this show well and truly going to lose me, or am I, like to where I'm going to take away my kind of nice praise, like, it's all right, and go straight into, no, this show sucks. It's like, well, we'll see. Tune in next time, true believers.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting that there's no Egypt mentioned at all, especially at the end of the last episode.
That's what I was saying. It's like, do they know what Caesar was up to while he was there for, like, the 3 however many years he was out there?
Well, yeah, Varenus and Polo and all them do, because they were there. They watched Caesar hold up Caesarion with Cleopatra.
But does the rest of Rome know? Is the better question, because like the soldiers can be put to silence.
I don't think they do at this point, but again, it's unclear. I think it's part of the fault of this show is some things just are not clear. The time jumps are so dramatic that you're like, well, wait a minute, I shouldn't be asking this question, essentially. Like, we should not have the question, does Rome know about Cleopatra and that, Caesar's banging her and all that and has a kid and stuff like that? I know enough historically to know that Caesar's heir does become a problem, like, because Mark Antony gets involved with Cleopatra and Caesar's heir, and then I know enough to know that, like, all this stuff does eventually become a problem. But so it seems like it's kind of hidden, but like, you can't keep something like that hidden forever. Yeah. You were gonna say something, Steve?
I think all the Quintus stuff might happen in the next episode. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, that's the end of this episode of Jupiter's Crock, episode 9 of Utica of HBO's Rome. Next, 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, we are going to talk about episode 10. Triumph, where Caesar is going to put together his grand triumph, taking, was it Vercingetorix or whatever?
King of the Gauls.
King of the Gauls. We're going to find out what happens to the King of the Gauls, who I think we saw way back in episode 1 or 2.
Yeah, episode 1.
Yeah.
And I just thought that they assassinated him.
Yeah, King of the Gauls has spent approximately 3,600 years in a Roman prison waiting for the next episode.
So we're going to find out what happens to him. So hit that like and subscribe, and we will continue our journey on Rome in 2 weeks.